I'm Catherine Buckler. I'm the Digital Innovation Lead at Sydenham and Dulwich Girls. And we have recently got the AI Gold Quality Mark from the Good Future Foundation. And it's been a really useful process in helping us through our AI journey. We started this journey, like many people, with the emergence of ChatGPT back in 2022, and I took on my role shortly after that. So it's felt like a really defining part of my time as Digital Innovation Lead. It's been quite exciting as the technologies evolved, but it's also been quite daunting as well to get to grips with the changes that are very rapid and are presenting real opportunities and challenges to school and to education more broadly. Now, like many places and across society, we've had some real enthusiastic individuals amongst our staff, those really wanting to push it, telling us we should be using it straight away, and parents as well, and some students really enthusiastic and wanting to drive it forward very rapidly. And then we've had other people who perhaps indifferent to it and not really kind of following the news and paying much attention. And then we've had those that have been very resistant, very hesitant, and those have been teachers, students, and parents as well. So it's a real mixed bag, that kind of quite polarised in many cases. Now, one of the concerns I've had trying to lead in this area is the lack of kind of any guidance, really, when we first started. Obviously, the DFE had no guidance at that time. So schools are really just trying to do the best they could. But again, it's challenging for schools to develop the expertise quickly in order to do that. So that's something we work quite hard at, actually, to try and really develop the expertise, both of myself as trying to lead on this, but also across the whole of our staff body. And I think, generally speaking, the thing that's really helped us, at the start of our journey, and something we've really kept as we've moved along, is actually our value and our mission. And as a girls' school, we're really keen to ensure that our girls can have those skills and have the confidence to be shapers and leaders in technology. So we didn't want them to be left behind. We didn't want them to not know about AI, to not know how to use it, to not be confident to go ahead with using it. So and I would encourage every school on that AI journey to really think about what it's going to look like in your context, because it's going to be different in every school. And I always recommend just keeping hold of those values and the mission and the context that you're in. Now, I'm going to share just a couple of the things that we have done along the way. And there are 8 different things I've got here. We have done other things as well. But I've picked these out as kind of 8 key things that we have done along our way. Now, as I mentioned before, developing expertise was really important to us, and it's something that we continue to do. So really, the very first thing was to train our staff. And I've got a slide on that in a moment just to show you some of the early work that we did in terms of training our staff. I also set up an AI special interest group to try and harness those really enthusiastic staff so that they could contribute to our strategy and to what we're doing, have that opportunity to have meaningful discussions, but also to hopefully not have them go off on a totally different tangent and do wild things as well. So that's been really successful. We introduced an appropriate use scale for students, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. But the idea behind it was to develop a real shared language around our use of AI as a school. As I said, we want our girls to be confident users of AI and to shape it, and to hopefully lead in the technology sector when they go on and leave school. But we also felt like girls were often more likely to be those people that were hesitant to use it. There was a lot of talk in the media about cheating if you're using AI. So we wanted our girls to really recognise when it's appropriate to use AI, when it can really add value to what they're doing, to not make it feel like they're cheating, but to find those opportunities where it's also not going to impact their kind of subject mastery, their ability to perform well in those high stakes exams that they still do, their GCSEs and A levels. We also looked for, as part of that, opportunities where they could really use AI in those meaningful ways. So we had an AI hackathon, for example, for our Year 10 students, where we set them a tasks, kind of how best could you use AI to create a really bespoke revision timetable, and kind of use that as a way of putting in their exact needs or exact subjects, how much time they've got, and seeing what they can do really meaningfully with AI that's not just trying to outsource the revision and thinking, but trying to do quite a big admin job more efficiently in an interesting and engaging way. And moving on from that, more recently, we've been looking at embedding AI across different curriculum subjects. Part of that has been using AI, obviously. We've had some great art projects, for example, where they've generated some digital imagery using AI. But some of that's also not hands-on AI. For example, an excellent project in religious studies looking at robots and impact on society of technology and AI more broadly. We've also embedded quite a lot of digital citizenship in our PSHE programme because we're really mindful of the impact to society, the impact on careers, safeguarding, mental health and well-being. And we wanted to make sure we weren't just kind of talking about AI as a curriculum addition, but actually as a much bigger digital citizenship piece as well. And finally, something I made for staff to try and help, this easing the workload. We've developed quite a lot of report checkers to try to not write the reports for our staff, but to help them kind of make them better, highlight if it's not quite hitting the right style. So it's not just a kind of a spell checker, it's really helping staff to match their reports to our in-house style guide and improve that. So we're trying to find ways for staff to use AI in a meaningful way that hopefully will help to reduce workload as well. Now, in terms of the staff training, some of the early things we did involved not just kind of throwing loads of tools at staff and how to use them. That's quite, that is important if we want staff to use AI tools. We do train them in those. But before we did that, we really looked at the potential impact of AI on society. And I used the analogy of the Industrial Revolution. No, sorry, not the Industrial Revolution, globalization. And the idea that lots of our industry has moved over to Southeast Asia and the closing down of kind of the Docklands in London and across the UK. And this shift in technology that's resulted in significant impact to the UK's economy, the types of jobs that are available here, and actually really impacting our physical landscape. And because we're in London, people really recognise actually the kind of deindustrialisation and the closing down of those Docklands, even though it happened decades ago, still has a lasting impact in London. So it's just trying to help staff understand the potential direction of travel for AI in society and what our young people are going to be faced with when they're leaving school. We also looked a little bit at how AI might impact certain tasks in the classroom. So one of the activities involves staff looking at this kind of framework with axes and asked to place different tasks depending on how much they thought it was going to impact thinking and human kind of collaboration and things like that. So that was a good opportunity for staff to really think through and to start thinking through how AI use in the classroom might impact pedagogical approaches and what might get lost in the classroom if we're suddenly just doing everything on AI. So that was quite important, I think, to help staff not just know how to use AI, but also for staff to know how to use it appropriately and how it fits in with what they're doing in the classroom. And of course, we did quite a lot of hands-on training. So, this was a time when actually quite a lot of our staff had never even tried AI. They'd lacked the confidence or they didn't see the need to use AI. So we had everyone with laptops open and a quick competition to see who could recreate this image. And suddenly everyone's kind of really engaged and on it. But suddenly trying to develop a really good prompt for the first time in what felt like a really non-threatening way. And that really was the first time some of our staff had used AI. So it was a good kind of icebreaker. We introduced the AI acceptable use scale to our students just over a year ago or a year and a half ago now. And this, we took it from some work from higher education. But at the time, there's not much research into AI, particularly in schools at a school level. So this was kind of the best idea that we had to help develop this shared language with students that I talked about and to provide those opportunities for meaningful use of AI in the classroom. And again, so our girls could start to think about the purposeful, beneficial uses of AI. Now, we have a kind of benchmark understanding that if a teacher doesn't talk about AI, then they're not using it for that task. But it gives an opportunity for teachers to set tasks with those levels where they can see it it might actually be appropriate. And it's nice to see that, going into EPQ, for example, in the sixth form, they're really using this to try and help work out how AI can be really useful in the EPQ process. Just thinking about our next steps, in September, we're launching a couple of really, I think, interesting courses, kind of academic enrichment. And they're part of our timetabled pioneering futures curriculum that we have called Elevate, which has been running this year. But we felt that actually perhaps more AI in this would be a good idea. So we've got two courses. We've got an AI ethics course that we're running for year 9. There will be a little bit of opportunity for hands-on use in AI in this, but it's a good opportunity for some significant discussion about some of the ethical implications of using AI, some interesting discussions around bias, for example, other things like maybe surveillance and impact on careers, and also a good debate on the kind of sustainability and environmental aspects of AI as well. And then in year 10, we're moving on kind of to AI for impact. So again, really thinking about how they can use AI, not just to replace their schoolwork, but more of a media literacy kind of focus there as well. Now, this is where the Good Future Foundation comes in, because I kind of came across this framework. We'd obviously already started on our AI journey, but I was thrilled when I discovered the framework because it really aligns with kind of lots of what we were doing already and our vision and our values that were underpinning what we were doing. The fact that it isn't kind of a big tech company that's kind of trying to push AI into schools, it's a really nice measured approach with 9 different areas that allowed us to really reflect on where we were at in our journey. So it's a very comprehensive framework. So it's not kind of a quick kind of checklist of things to do. It really helped us to reflect on lots of different things that we were doing, which was nice to see that we had some real strengths, things that we'd already done. And it gave us some really good ideas of what our next steps should be. So it's really helped us with our strategic planning moving forwards. So we've identified that perhaps the operational side of things is where we can make some much more significant progress. We've done quite a lot on the teaching and learning and the curriculum and the digital literacy, particularly with the new courses in September. But certainly by kind of working through this process, we've been able to see that operationally, this is somewhere where we can really start to make some significant benefits. So I'm very grateful for this framework for helping us to see that. And I've no doubt we'll continue to look at it and keep using it as a really useful resource in our school. And definitely would recommend it to other schools, wherever you're at in your AI journey. If you're just starting, looking at that framework provides that excellent foundation that you can start to build from. But if you're further along on that journey as well, it does serve as quite a good reflection tool and a kind of next steps decision-making help. So that is it from me. And thank you for all your help with getting our AI journey to where it is today.